I'm just going to take a moment to share with you the story of one of my previous clients to illustrate how transformative this exercise turned out to be for her. She was an executive coach and she had a handful of very profitable corporate clients, and they're all being fed to her by this large corporation. And it was really reliable and sustainable, but she also felt really stifled because she, had to play by their rules and couldn't try new methods or even choose who she wanted to work with. And she wanted to strike out on her own and start building her private practice. And when we were doing this analysis of one of her biggest competitors, this guy was also a coach with the same education and similar methodologies, in business for about the same amount of time, and even a lot of the same connections. And we're trying to figure out, what was the difference? Why was he so successful? So we looked at his website together, and it wasn't memorable. His messaging wasn't anything particularly unique or impactful, and his video was flashy, but not particularly moving. And yet he scaled his business, and he's written a few books that sold well. And he does a lot of big speaking engagements, and he's got a YouTube channel. And because of those strategies, he has marketing muscles. He built videos and books and speeches. He built content, and he worked really hard to get himself out in front of people. And then we looked at her website, which she had recently updated with new gorgeous photography and improved organization and powerful copywriting. And it was really impressive. So I asked her, what's missing? What does this guy have that you don't have? And the first thing that she said was, well, I don't have all of his fancy videos, and I don't have a book, and I don't have a YouTube channel, and I don't have all of his contacts. So I asked her, well, could you start a YouTube channel and start building some videos about your business? She said, yeah. And I said, okay, well, if you set aside some time, maybe over the next 2 years, and if you worked with an editor, could you write a book? She said, yeah. And then I asked her, so why haven't you? What is the difference between you and this guy? Why does he get to do all this big, bold stuff? And why is he so much more successful? She thought about it for a minute. She started shaking her head. She said, I don't know. He is unjustifiably confident. He has no business being this successful. And I could hear how resentful she was. So I asked her, well, is he a more skilled speaker than you? And she quickly said, no, definitely no. And I asked, is he smarter? And she said, no, I can't believe how far he's gotten, really. I said, okay, well, what does he have that you don't? And she said, I don't know. He just thinks he deserves it. He's just hustling this shit. And I said, yeah, he's hustling his shit and it's working. And that's exactly what you're not doing. Just imagine if you took your natural talents and your aesthetic and you hustled it. Imagine if you thought you deserved it. And even if you didn't fully believe you deserve it, you just gave yourself permission to try. You have to sell yourself and you have to put your work out there. And it's not going to be perfect, but that's not what really matters. What matters is that you hustle. So that's what we're going to work on. So if the only things really getting in your way are your perfectionism, your fear of failure, and the fact that you're waiting for someone else to give you permission to say you're ready, here's a reality check. No one can give that to you. That needs to come from you. If you don't give yourself permission to take yourself seriously and put yourself out there and say, fuck it, I'm going to do this, you're always going to be waiting for someone else's approval every step of the way. You have to just decide for yourself, I'm not waiting for someone else's approval. I don't care if I make mistakes. I will learn from them. And if I just keep hustling and improving, I'm going to get there because I want this for myself. So as of today, we're going to practice rescripting the way you talk to yourself. And here's how this works. You're going to hear your unconscious insecurities say something like, well, I'm never going to be as successful as, or I'm not really smart enough to, or I'll never be. And when you hear yourself say that, just pause and recognize what that is. It's just a negative thought that's been playing in the back of your head for decades, and you don't have time for that anymore. It's no longer protecting you. It's limiting you. So when you hear it, I just want you to practice catching yourself thinking it. Like, oh, there's that insecurity, and then label it as shit-talking yourself and push it aside. Nope, I'm not going to do that to myself today. So this does take practice, but with repetition, it will change how you think about yourself. Humans learn by repetition. So the more you say something to yourself, the more you believe it. So let's replace some of those negative thoughts with some positive ones so you can move on. So as you're doing these competitive analyses and you're looking at other successful businesses and you're gathering inspiration, if you hear that voice in the back of your head say something negative like, this site's awesome, but I could never build anything like this, or I could never afford that photography, or I'll never be that big, I invite you to recognize those thoughts for what they are. They're shit talking, and you need to push them aside. If you just gave yourself permission to be your own authority, to show up every day and try and be ready to learn and make mistakes, but you just keep trying and hustling and moving forward, what do you think is going to happen? You're going to get there. You just need to not give up.